morning, afternoon, or evening, Cross Church family, whatever time of day you're watching this. I'm Zach Kordic. I'm the youth pastor here at the Cross Church, and it is my honor to bring our weekly devotional this week. It is currently August 1st. It is absolutely sweltering outside, which is why I'm inside for this particular devotional. And of course, with August comes a lot of new things, right? It's a new school year for our students. If you have kids, they're getting ready to go back to school. Maybe some of them are going into high school for the first time or middle school. Or if you're a student, perhaps you've graduated high school and you're getting ready to start a brand new chapter of your life. Either way, this is often a season of new things, of beginnings, more so than spring is for a lot of people. At least for me, I notice spring is usually the end of things, whereas the midpoint of summer is when things begin. And as with New Year's resolutions, sometimes these new seasons of life, they bring passion, they bring excitement. We want to try something new. We're going to put ourselves out there. We're going to start a new hobby. We're going to, join a sports team at school or another extracurricular activity, whatever it may be. Or maybe we're going to start a new position at work, or maybe we've moved recently. But the summer is a time of a lot of change, and when we go back to school, it can be completely and totally different. Even if you've been out of school for a long time, the end of summer can often be a season of newness. And with that newness comes passion. But I know for myself, sometimes I find that passion quickly wanes after a couple of weeks. The thing that I have committed myself to, I start to not care about it as much, or I think, well, I've gone so long without doing this. I've been okay, so there's no point in me stressing out about it. I think that this says a lot about us as people and sort of our Western society, right? When things become difficult, when axe meets grindstone or pedal meets metal or whatever analogy you want to use, a lot of us, and I include myself in this, we find ourselves sort of pulling away, right? We value feeling comfortable. We value being chill, being relaxed. We don't like to do things that are difficult for us, be that physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. We value our comfort, especially as Americans. We value quickness, we value fast things, we don't want things to take a long time, and we don't want things to be difficult. My wife can tell you one of the things that frustrates me the most is when I forget my password to somewhere and I have to reset it. It's not a long process, but sometimes it is incredibly painstaking and difficult, and it frustrates me greatly. But that's just sort of a microcosm, right? Of bigger things, of things that we should be patient with, and things that we should be committing ourselves to. My wife and I, as most of you are aware, we have an 8-month-old. And back around this time last year, before he was born, we started having very serious discussions about what 2024 was going to look like for us. I'm obviously working full-time at the church. She was working full-time at Choctaw Middle School. And we started to talk about, is that how we want to continue to operate as a family? Do we want to put our son in childcare, and the both of us continue to work full-time, or do we need to make adjustments? Do we need to make changes? And we prayed about it, and we had many conversations about it. And so we decided before he was born that she would stay home with him, that she would give up her full-time job at Choctaw and she would stay home with him. Now, I'm not going to lie, that's a difficult decision, of course, for her, because she's a great teacher, and she has obviously an emotional attachment to her coworkers and her students, right? So it's difficult in that way, but also it's difficult financially. It goes without saying that my family is taking a massive pay cut for her to be able to stay home with my son. And that's very difficult. And it's been something that we have really had to talk about and pray about. And we've had to obviously adjust a lot of our spending habits. And that's not fun, right? We want to be able to spend our money somewhat frivolously, right? We want to buy the things that we want. We want to eat out at the places we want to eat out. And we want to be able to give lavish gifts to our friends and our family, right? But we have realized, over the summer that obviously the way we're operating, the way we've been operating is not possible. So sitting down and making a budget and sticking to that is very difficult. It's very hard. And if you've ever had to take a pay cut, or you've moved, or your spouse has given up their job, their full-time job to stay at home, then you understand what I'm talking about. You really have to start pinching your pennies and counting your money. And it's hard. It's difficult. It's not easy. The financially easier, and some would say wiser decision, would be for my wife to continue to work and for us to put our child in full-time daycare, because that way we would be making more money, we would be more comfortable financially, and all of those things are true. I'm not going to dispute the truth of that. But what would we be giving up for the sake of financial ease if that were the case? Someone else would be raising our son. Someone else would be hearing his first words and seeing him take his first steps and watching him as he tries new foods. And when we weigh the fact that, one day she can go back to work and she can pull in more money and we can be more financially comfortable again, versus our son will never be an infant again. One day he'll be 3, and then he'll be 8, and then he'll be 16, and then he'll be 28. And we'll never get that time with him again. And so when we weigh those things, it is doing the hard thing that produces the most fruit. The verse I'd like to share with you today is 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verses 10 through 12. This is Paul writing to the Thessalonians. He says, "Even while we were with you, we gave you this command. Those unwilling to work will not get to eat. Yet we hear that some of you are living idle lives, refusing to work and meddling in other people's business. We command such people and urge them in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ to settle down and work to earn their own living." Now, I think it's very easy to read this verse and say that it simply applies to having a job, right? Everybody needs to go out and have a job. You need to provide for yourself. And of course, on the surface, that is exactly what Paul is saying. You should be providing for yourself. You should be providing for your family. But I want to go a little bit deeper with it. We should be, as Christians, doing hard things. We should be going out of our way to do hard things. I want to be clear here. This doesn't necessarily mean that we should be punishing ourselves. We should be, self-flagellating. It's a really long word. You can look it up. We shouldn't be hurting ourselves. We shouldn't be making ourselves suffer for the sake of suffering, right? Yes, it is okay that we live in air-conditioned homes, and that we like cheeseburgers, right? At least I hope that's okay, because I'm in real big trouble if it's not. But we should be going out of our way to become more like Christ. And Christ did a lot of hard things. And sometimes that was physical, right? He was homeless. He traveled an awful lot. He did not know where he was going to lay his head. He never knew where his next meal was coming from. And for most of us, that is not a concern, right? We have homes, we have families, we're established, we're settled down, we have jobs. But he also had incredibly difficult conversations with people. He dove head first into communities that needed him. Anything that he had that he could give, he did. And the early church was like that too. They pooled their resources. They sold their belongings so that they could give to the church, which, I know how much I value some of the things I own, so I can't imagine how difficult that must have been. But the point is, regardless of where you find yourself, you should be doing hard things. You should be asking God to put a situation in your life that grows you and develops you. A very, very wise person I know once told me, "I know that if I am comfortable in my faith, then I am not growing." Wow, that hit me hard, because I feel pretty comfortable in my faith sometimes. Find something hard to do this week and do it. I love you, church. Have a good week.